Genesis 47, verses 27 through 31. Getting ready to go home. Verse 27 reads, Now the people of Israel lived in the country of Egypt, in the land of Goshen, and they gained possessions and acquired property there, and were fruitful and greatly multiplied. And Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years. So the length of Jacob's life was 147 years. And when the time drew near for Israel, Jacob, to die, he called his son Joseph and said to him, If now I have found favor in your sight, please put your hand under my thigh and promise to deal loyally and faithfully with me. Please do not bury me in Egypt. But when I lie down with my fathers in death, you will carry me out of Egypt and bury me in the burial place at Hebron in the cave of Machpelah. And Joseph said, I will do as you have directed. Then he said, Swear to me that you will do it. So he swore to him. Then Israel, Jacob, bowed in worship at the head of the bed. Genesis 47, 27 through 31. Getting ready to go home. A godly legacy. A godly legacy isn't just about how you live. It's about how you die. And it's about what you leave behind. In a foreign land surrounded by a pagan culture, in the midst of the worst economic crisis known of up to that time, Jacob finishes well. He models faith in God and God's promises, a dependence on God's protection and in his care, and a desire to stay connected to God and God's covenant, even when facing death. And we see that Joseph honors his dad, not in or with just fanfare, right? I'm in charge of everything, Dad, whatever you want, it's yours. It's not that. But with obedience and with integrity, he honors his dad as well. These first couple of verses, 27 and 28, I put a title there, and that's Flourishing in Egypt Without Forgetting God. Flourishing in Egypt without forgetting God. Now the people of Israel lived in the country of Egypt, in the land of Goshen, and they gained possessions and acquired property there, and were fruitful and multiplied greatly. And Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years. So the length of Jacob's life was 147 years. That phrase there says they were fruitful and they multiplied greatly. That's a reference back to, or it echoes what we read in Genesis chapter 1, verse 28 a few months ago. For God tells Adam and Eve, then God blessed them, and he said to them, Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and govern it. Reign over the fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, and the animals that scurry along the ground. But it also shows God's faithfulness to the covenant that he made with Abraham in Genesis 12. Because there in Genesis 12, in verses 1 through 3, we read, The Lord had said to Abram, Leave your native country, your relatives, and your father's family, and go to the land that I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you and make you famous, and you will be a blessing to others. I will bless those who bless you and curse those who treat you with contempt. All the families on the earth will be blessed through you. As Christians, something that I believe is important for us to understand, realize, and embrace is that even when we find ourselves in a pagan land, in our Egypt, if you will, away from our true home, and if in case you're wondering, your true home is heaven, Christian, not here. We're just passing through here. Even though we find ourselves in that pagan land, God does not even for a moment pause. He does not neglect, nor does he forget his promises to us. Never. It might get ugly, it might get dark, but he always keeps his promises to us. Always. I want you to know that it's absolutely possible to thrive in enemy territory. You can. God can bless you still in the midst of Egypt. He can. There's nothing wrong with Christians who are blessed with abundance. Nothing wrong with it at all. Not that we're all going to be there, but there's nothing wrong with it. However, what's important or imperative for us is that we never forget to whom we belong and where your true home is. You can have the best of whatever and a lot of what's not. That's okay. But like I've heard it said before, you never see a hearse pulling a U-Haul. You can't take it with you, folks. If he gives it to you here, it's for his honor and his glory. But it's great that you have it. But don't forget, this isn't home. You're God's. And home is heaven. Don't ever forget that. And the world is really good about clouding our vision, opaquing where home is, dulling the sound of his voice. We need to be watchful and careful, vigilant of those things. Remember, you really can't call it a blessing if it takes you away from God. Doesn't matter what it is. Pulls you away from him. It's not a blessing. In the midst of being here and going through whatever we're going through, don't limit God. We need to remember that our settings and our situations here and now, the ones we're facing at the moment, they don't have the power to cancel out God's promises to you or to me, and much less change our eternal destiny. Some days you're going to feel like this is the worst day ever. God doesn't love me. Well, it may be the worst day ever to this point. But God hasn't forgotten about you. He's still on the throne. He is still faithful. He still loves you. And if it pleases him, you will still have a tomorrow. He's faithful. And heaven's still home. Right? I mean, how many people have we remember reading, or maybe we saw in the news when all those homes were burning in different places, whether it's here or in Hawaii, right? All those people that lost everything. But then you'd hear the ones, some were just crying over everything, the stuff that got lost. And then you'd hear every once in a while somebody say, I got out with my wife, my kids, and our dog. We can rebuild the rest. The things that really mattered were what mattered. We can get more stuff. I can't get another mom, dad, wife, cat, right? It's just them. Jacob lived to be 147 years old. I've never seen anybody 147. I've seen somebody 101, even 102. But not much older. No, not older than that at all. So when I look at him, I mean, I think Jacob right now, he's old. He's weathered. He's worn out. I think of those cowboys. Remember the old Marlboro commercials, the cigarettes, right? Just that old leather skin, just tough men. That's how I see Jacob. Just a tough guy. He was out there, man of the land. Around the kind of guy you shake his hand in your face and crush yours. That's the kind of guy I see Jacob. Okay? So there he is. Even though he's 147 years old, we see that wonderfully in these last 17 years while he was in Egypt, God made it so that he was able to watch his family flourish beyond his wildest dreams. He'd been out, living a nomad, doing whatever he was doing, but now he's home. He's there with his son, who's like the VP of the world at that time, and he can watch all of his children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren just having a great life, being taken care of, healthy, provided for, loved. And he was able to enjoy that. Just this morning, I was watching David trying to catch a spider. And I looked and I was like, what is this kid doing? And then I was going to say, I got to make him stop. And then I thought, this is that little guy that almost died. That we didn't know if I was ever going to get to hold him. I had COVID at the time that he was being born. And I thought, you know what? Let me just enjoy him messing with that spider. So I watched him. And then he noticed I was there, and he goes, Rhino, it's a spider. He goes, and it's a big one. I go, should you be there then? No, but will you kill it? Sure. You know? But he got to enjoy to see those things, those memories, Jacob, at this time. And even though he lived 7 years, and some people might say he lived these 17 years in the lap of luxury, he never got soft. I don't believe he got soft one bit. He made it a point to always remember where he came from. I know what it was like. I know what I had to go through. I remember all of that. I'm not forgetting that. It's not that I don't appreciate where I am right now, what my son's been able to bless me with. But I don't forget where I came from. I appreciate what I have today. Guys, ladies, our mission doesn't change just because the terrain does. You may be somewhere different, but you still got the same mission. And you're going, well, okay, Anthony, but what's my mission? Here I am, a Christian, and I'm not really clear what I'm supposed to be doing. Well, let me help you out. Matthew 28. In Matthew 28, verses 18 through 20, it gives us our mission. And your Bible might say on it, the Great Commission. In Matthew 28, 18 through 20, it says, and Jesus came and he spoke to them, saying, all authority has been given to me on heaven and on earth. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. This was Jesus' final command to his disciples after his resurrection. The first thing he said to them after he rose from the dead, and just before his ascension in the book of Acts. What he commanded them to do was go and make disciples. Not just fans, but disciples. Baptize these disciples. Teach each one of these disciples and all the nations everything that he has commanded you. And make it clear to everyone that everyone is to obey these commands. That's your mission. And there is no age limit. When you become a Christian, this is your mission until the day you die, your last breath. This is what we're supposed to be committed to doing. So in spite of all the blessings, and I imagine they were many, Jacob never allowed Egypt to become his home and his heart. He was fine where he was. He was blessed where he was. I'm sure he had it great. But in his heart, Egypt wasn't home. He knew where he belonged. And it wasn't where he prospered. It was where God had promised he was supposed to be. It's great here. I love it here. And we might have a great life right now, where you live and who your family is and your spouse and the kids and the grandkids. Everything might be wonderful, but inside your heart, you're like, but this isn't home. There's somewhere better. There's a song by B.J. Thomas about, it says, they say that heaven's pretty and living here is too, but if they say that I must have to choose between the two, I'd go home. I'm going home where I belong. Right? It's great to be here. I'd rather be home. We've been on vacation, right? Some of us. You've been maybe stationed somewhere else in the world. And the bed might be nice. People might be cool. But there's something about sleeping in your own bed. Right? Waking up to familiar sounds. Right? We can only be gone so long before Becca's like, how's my dog? There's those things in our lives. There's nothing like being home. And as long as we're here, there's going to be that tugging for heaven. And that's okay. So that time will come. The question, where's your heart anchored? You personally, what's your heart anchored to? Egypt? Here stuff? Or God and his promises? What are you anchored to? There's a lady named Fanny Crosby. She was blind and she wrote songs. And A lot of times she wrote about seeing the face of Jesus, and the first thing she would see would be his face and how she rejoiced over that. But she wrote this song, A Pilgrim and a Stranger. And it says, a pilgrim and a stranger, I journey here below, far from my Father's mansion where crystal waters flow. But yet my home is yonder, prepared by love divine, where saints and angels gather in palms of victory twine. Home, sweet, sweet, sweet home. Oh, when shall I be gathered in the bright home above? Though here I'm sad and weary and trials often come, my heart still sings of heaven, that bright eternal home, where Jesus reigns in glory and sorrow is unknown. There I shall dwell forever and know as I am known. Even though she was here and she was going through whatever she was going through, look up Fanny Crosby and look at some of her hymns, and you're going to be like, oh my gosh. You know, we're like, if I was blind, I'd be miserable. She was just focusing on the Lord because she knew this wasn't home. They even asked her one time, I believe it was her, if you could, would you want to see? She goes, no, not really. Why not? Because the first face I want to see is going to be the face of Jesus. I thought, man, how awesome is that? How many of us have that heart? Oh, I want to see him, look upon his face, there to sing forever of his saving grace. Right? Man. Anyway, the bottom line is, it's possible to prosper, okay, in a broken world without being absorbed by it or overcome by it or compromised by it. It is, okay? Again, there's people that have taken being blessed by God and twisted it into something it's not supposed to be. It's not bad to be blessed by God. What's bad is when those things have a hold of you. The key is to remain committed to Jesus, to remain grounded in your faith, and to maintain your eternal perspective and not this temporal one. It's not about what more can I get. It's I'm just waiting to go home, and whatever you want to give me here, I entrust to you. I'll be a good steward of whatever you give me, Lord. That's all. That's all it is. Verses 29 and 30, it says, and when the time drew near for Israel, for Jacob to die, he called his son Joseph, and he said to him, if now I found favor in your sight, please put your hand under my thigh and promise to deal loyally and faithfully with me. Please don't bury me in Egypt. But when I die, lay me with my fathers in death. You will carry me out of Egypt and bury me in their burial place at Hebron in the cave of Machpelah. And Joseph said, I will do as you've directed. Then he said, swear to me that you will do it. So he swore to him, and Israel, Jacob, bowed in worship at the head of his bed. Now it's clear now that Jacob understands that these are the last days of his life. He sees that. He knows that. There's three key things here that I think are important for us to take note of. He says, if now I have found favor in your sight. This took a chunk of my time in the study. Jacob wasn't asking for a favor, folks. That's not what he was doing. He was appealing to the loyalty that comes from a relationship that's built with God, God's steadfast love and truth. That's what he's asking for. I want to see God's loyalty in action here. So what he's really saying to his son, he's saying, Joseph, my son, I know what God promised me. And I know that you're the one he provided to make it come true. I know that if I'm going to die where he said I was going to die and be there where I was supposed to be there, you're the answer to that. I know this. And he's also saying, look, I'm asking you to do this, but I'm asking you to do it because you love me. Not because I've earned it, not because I deserve it, but just because you love me, son. I want you to do God's will for me in my life. That's what he's saying. This request, I mean, he's his dad. And it's funny because it really doesn't matter how old we get. As long as our dad is alive, he has the potential to pull the dad card. Right? It's like, well, I'm going to do that. Then why? Nobody else will ask you why. Nobody else will say, but your dad, no, you shouldn't do that. Well, but I'm going to do. All right, I think you're dumb, but all right. You know, they'll just tell you, and you're like, what? They pull it. Well, why are you talking? I'm your dad. Don't talk to me that way, right? That happens. It can happen. It's time to say stuff to my dad, and he's like, why? Because I want to. Right? You know, and then later he'll come and say, okay, yeah, I know what you got to do, what you got to do. You know, walk away again. You know, it's like, is that a poke or was that an encouragement? I don't know. The dad will do that sometimes. But Jacob didn't do that. When Jacob went and made this request, he showed great humility. He was showing his faith in God and his dependence upon God. But it was also showing that he had confidence in the character of his son. I'm asking you to do God's will in my life. I want you to help me do this. So Jacob is saying, son, much more than the authority you have to make it happen, I know you love me, and I know you're a man of godly character. Therefore, I know that you can and that you will make this happen. He's going back to, because you're a man of God, you're going to do God things. That's what he's saying. That's why I'm asking you this way, to do this for me. He's not commanding him like a father to a little boy. Here we have Jacob, the godly man, appealing to Joseph, the godly man, on the basis of God's promises. That's what's going on here. There's a mutual respect here. My son is grown, he's a man, and I'm asking you, son, as a man of God, please do this. As men of God, as godly leaders, we ask with humility, not with entitlement. So often we forget that we're under authority, and that's his authority, and we represent him in everything that we do. I'm not saying to become weak in your leadership. I'm just saying remember who you represent in fulfilling your role as leader of your homes or whatever you're doing. So what he's saying to Joseph is, help me fulfill God's will for my life, my son. And now the act of placing the hand under the thigh, it was a way they made an oath back then. Okay? So you can read it something similar in Genesis 24, but that's what it was. The next thing he says that I want us to look at is deal loyally and faithfully with me. Those two words, loyally and faithfully, they're contract words. Covenantal is the word they use. What that means is these words are grounded in God's binding promises, in God's agreements. And he's asking him based on what God said. He's not asking him based on what he wants or what he thinks. God said this. This was God's promise to me, God's covenant with me, his contract with me. So he's using that kind of a language, or that kind of language with him. Deal loyally and faithfully with me. This isn't just kindness he's looking for, or honesty in some generic sense. This is something binding. This is something God-honoring. These are the same words that are used when they talk about God's character in the Bible. When you talk about God, you go, I wonder what he's like. Well, Genesis 34:6 tells us a little bit about God's character. In Exodus 34:6. In Exodus 34:6, it says, then the Lord passed by in front of him and proclaimed, the Lord God, compassionate, gracious, slow to anger, and abounding in loving kindness and truth. You want to know what the Father's like? It's right there. That's what he's like. This is a language that was used when speaking of keeping those stipulations that are in a contract, loyally and faithfully. Keep these things. You're bound to this. So what Jacob is asking Joseph is that his actions would faithfully mirror God's own loyalty and fidelity. Son, I'm asking you to act like God, to behave like God. That's what I want you to do. You're a godly man. I want you to behave, to act like that, son. That's what he's telling him. Faithfulness and loyalty, guys, they're not optional character traits for us. And today, for too many men, that's exactly what they are. Loyalty and faithfulness. There's that one line in A Few Good Men, I'm going to paraphrase it, but where Jack Nicholson says, those words like honesty, character, integrity, they're just punchlines for you in a joke, right? That kind of a thing is, but not for us. And that's what it is for men of God, being men of integrity, men of character, men of high morals, ethics. This is who we're supposed to be. This is not the exception. This is supposed to be the rule when it comes to any Christian. But man, especially I look at you this morning. Jacob wasn't asking for a favor. He was invoking the loyalty that comes from a relationship that's built on God's love and faithfulness. I'm asking, God said he was going to do this. He's put you in the place to get this done for me. I'm asking you to faithfully obey God, do what God is having you do, allowing you to do to get me where I'm supposed to be when I die. That's what he's saying to him here. He's saying, son, deal with me in accordance with God's unfailing love and with his irrevocable, uncontestable, eternal truth. Deal with me like God would, son. That's what I'm asking you to do. How heavy is that? Your dad comes up to you and he's about to die and he says, son, I'm about to die. Don't bury me here. Well, Dad, you got the best piece of land anywhere. I could put you in the biggest ivory tower with diamonds. There's no limits. Don't bury me here, son. Bury me back in that cave. What? Son, God promised me this. That I would be here. I need you to follow through with that. I can't get back there on my own. You can get me back. Son, fulfill God's promise in my life. He had to trust him. And as a son, how heavy would that be? You're dying, but okay, Dad. Hey, Dad. Why would he say, okay, Dad? Because he knew that was the will of God. That's why. That's why. It's like my dad saying, take me back and bury me in Puerto Rico under the mango tree. Why, Dad? We got a nice plot over here for it. The Lord told me that I'm okay. But I know your relationship with God, Dad. So I'll do it. And he says, I love it. He says, do this. He goes, I will. He goes, swear to me. Right? Total dad, right? Do it. Dad, I'll do it. No, you swear. I know you, boy, right? Just swear to me. Right? He's making sure. He wants you, he's saying, I love, because when I looked it up, it was really interesting. When he says swear to me, what he's actually saying to him is, son, 7 yourself. Yeah, right? 7 yourself. What is that about? Here's what it is. Okay. In Hebrew, that number 7 signifies completeness or perfection. So what he's saying here is, I want you to swear an oath to 7 yourself. I want you to commit yourself to this seriously. I want you to see it through till the end. I want you to perfectly do this. Cut no corners, make no exceptions. Don't get lazy. No. Perfectly carry out the task that has been given to you, my son. That's what he's saying to him. And again, I can't help but see the picture of where the father tells the son who's going to go, and he says, I will go. And he dies for us in our place, and he carries it out perfectly. But again, here, son, do what I'm asking you to do perfectly. And totally commit yourself to this, to get me back where I belong. Okay, Dad. He's basically saying, son, obligate and commit yourself morally and spiritually before man and God to do this thing. In other words, son, I want you to be all in on this. totally committed to what you're going to do. Please, my son. Man of God, your word has to be as binding as an oath. You have to be totally committed to what you're going to do. If you say yes, then it's a yes. If it's no, it's a no. It's supposed to be that way. People should be able to look at us and say, oh yeah, they're honest. It's, you know, is that what Luke said? Yeah, then it's going to happen. That's it. There is no question. Man of his word. Integrity for us is a non-negotiable. Whatever we say, whenever we say it, we do that. And this is especially true when it has to do with God's word and God's promises. You and I, we're accountable before the Lord and everyone else when we make these vows, when we make these statements that come to Scripture. When I was going over this, I couldn't help but think of marriage vows. We make these vows, and it tells us how we're supposed to behave, how we're supposed to treat our wives, how we're supposed to take care of our families. All this is there. So we're supposed to follow those things. There's absolutely no justifiable reason for breaking our vows. None. None. Again, keep your word. Then it says that he bowed his head, right? He bowed in worship at the head of his bed. So other parts will say the staff, but he bowed his head in worship. We know that for sure. That word that's used there for worship, the way it's worded and what it has at the heart of it is there's always an outward physical expression of that inward surrender. So yeah, he worshiped. You know how there's sometimes that maybe you're home and you're in your personal time of just spending it with the Lord and you're like, I love you, God, and you're so precious to me. And then you just, it's that moment. And then you're like, I can't be sitting down in my chair. I can't be sitting in front of my computer. I need to kneel down. I need to kneel down and just acknowledge who you are. I went, this is so embarrassing. I went a day, right? And that I didn't actually kneel down to pray. And I came to the church. I was in the chair and I was praying. And it just didn't feel right. So I looked at the altar. Some guy named Gator made these for us. And I came and knelt down. And I felt like I had been away from him for days, for months. It's like I felt so far because I hadn't knelt down and spent that time with him. That intimacy that includes my humility to him. Here it says he bowed in worship. And we get creative sometimes. Oh, my heart is bowed before the Lord. I get that, man. But why aren't you kneeling down before him? Is it pride or is it because you don't have to? You don't always got to kneel down, but why aren't you when you can? Just a question. Jacob's final act at the head of his bed was an act of worship, of surrender, of reverence before God. Then Israel bowed in worship. I love the fact that Jacob doesn't die bitter. Right? There's some people, I am not going to go quietly. I'm going to fight this, right? And they go into whatever they got to do. I go, oh, okay, that's fine. There's other people that when they get to that point, they're like, God's been good. Again, my mom's quote, it's all in God's hands. Jacob dies worshiping. And in my opinion, that's how every final chapter in the life of a Christian should end. In worship. In worship. Whatever we're going through, it's like, we know we're going to worship the Jew. There's that song, oh, I long to see him look upon his face, right? That's the goal. I love it the first time I heard it, and I've used it since, that People here, we die. This shell, I don't know, suit of flesh. It holds the eternal in it. The thing is, when we die, yeah, I close my eyes here. Yeah, I stop breathing here. But the first face I see is going to be his. The first breath I take is going to be there. How can I not be grateful? They say that death is that door between us and eternity. And the awesome thing is that we know what's behind that door. A lot of other people don't. But we know who's waiting for us. This is something I believe is key, is that Jacob only bowed in worship after Joseph swore to do what he asked of him, right? After he said, I swear, I'll do it. Okay, good. Then he bowed in worship. Folks, I believe that the only way that you and I can bow in worship this way is when our children carry on under the mantle of our Christian faith. That's when we'll be able to die worshiping. I think that is so key. Something about knowing that if I was to die right now, my kids serve God. I can die okay. An accident that just happened not too many days ago was a friend of mine's son. I can't imagine losing a child that way at all, but that way. But folks, there's something about knowing if I go home that they know Jesus, I know I'll see him again. Knowing that, I think I could die worshiping. I know I could. Thank you, because I have that promise, that assurance, that peace that I have no other way. So mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, are you preparing your children and grandchildren not just to live out their faith, but to die well in their faith? How are you preparing them? Your example means a ton. I believe that you'll know you're living well when you successfully pass on your faith and the purpose God's given you to these next generations. That's when you know, when your kids are like, yeah, Dad, I want to serve, I want to help, I want to be part of whatever God is doing. They don't have to be in the same church as you, that's fine. But they're serving the Lord. They're like, yeah, I'm winning this one. I'm doing good in this one. Because my kids are faithfully following God. The fact that Jacob was able to bow his head at the end of his life shows that, hey, I've completed my faith. I've been running my race well. He wasn't perfect, okay? So don't put that trip on yourself, guys. You've got to be perfect. We're all works in progress. But what they should be able to say is, my mom, my dad, grandpa, grandma, etc., were faithful to God. And while they were not perfect, they did their best to serve him. They can say he was faithful to the end, that he finished well. The greatest testimony in your life to your family and the world is to be able to die in that state of worship. I forgot where there was a video somebody sent of a family, and you could tell they were islanders, I would imagine Hawaiian, but they're all in there, and it looked like grandma was dying, and they are all singing these worship songs. And you got this matriarch of the family is just can't really say much, but man, she's lifting her hands, she's just worshiping. And there was tears, but I couldn't help but think those are tears of joy around that. Because they know grandma's, their mom, or sister, aunties is going to heaven, and we're going to be with her again. She's going to rest now. But, it's like when my brother died. There was that loss, but there was that sense of joy. And whenever we played sports, football, David always made the hole for me because he was so much bigger than I was. I was like, he just got there first. He made the hole, so I know how to get there. That's all. But we have that hope, man, that we don't have. It's in God. That greatest testimony we have is that we show our family that we're fully surrendered to God's faithfulness. When we die knowing that our legacy is secured in His promises. In His promises. Guys, you come to Him, He'll accept you. And we share that with our families, and they go, yeah, and then they do it. And we know we'll be together forever, but it's all because of what Jesus did. Not because I beat them over the head with the Bible. I instructed my children in the way they should go. I brought them to church. I didn't give them the option. I showed them what needed to be done. And then once they became adults, if they wanted to go all squirrely and sideways and the wheels fell off their wagon, it's on you. But I brought you up in the ways of the Lord. And the cool thing is that even though they may have taken a little detour, I love it that God just says, here, come on back, let's refurbish your car, and let's get you going again. It's a beautiful thing to be able to experience how God protects that because we're dependent upon Him. It's not based on my performance. My kids know I'm not perfect. Totally know that. My wife knows I'm not perfect. But what they do know is that I have a heart for God. And more than anything, I want them to serve and know my God. And that's it. Imperfections and all. That's what we need to be instilling in our families. And that by no means is saying I'm the example. I'm just telling you I know what He requires of me and of us. As leaders in our homes, we need to show our tribe the power of leaving a legacy behind upon the unchanging faithfulness and the promises of God. They have to see in you. You have to model that. Dad, what are we going to do? What are they going to hear? We're going to freak out because we don't know what's going to happen. Or they're going to be, your dad says, we're going to pray first, and then we'll see what God says. Okay, so what do they learn? We pray. That's it. We start there, and then we do whatever He has us do. I believe prayer is the best place to start, really the only place to start, but it's not the only thing that we're supposed to do. Lord, what shoes do I wear? Well, wear the black ones. Okay, well, put them on my feet. No, you put your shoes on, right? We got our part to do as well. Godly leadership means that we point others to Jesus, even with our last and dying breath. As Christians, how you die matters. How you die matters. If you die a faith-filled death, that teaches others about Jesus. It focuses others on Jesus, and it leads others to Jesus. That's how we should end. That's how we should end. Our entire life should serve to prepare us to die with this blessed purpose, to be able to fulfill it. They'll go and they'll see, and they'll be gathered around. I pray one day, long, long time from now, they're gathered around the bed, and I'm ready to go home. And they're like, he loved the Lord. He loves Him, and he's. But they'll see that he believed God's promises, and God was faithful to him, and he went through this and experienced that and suffered through the other, but his God was always faithful, and he always focused us back on the Lord. I can't tell you how privileged and blessed I am that I have my dad and the example he's given to me and all that he's gone through. Whether it was watching him at the death of his father, his mother, his son, his wife, friends, and other things that he experienced, his faith didn't move. I remember asking him, Dad, how? Why? I remember when Mom died, he said, Mijo, I didn't ask God why. I just asked God to help me. Okay. It's good to have examples. Your legacy is not just about what you did while you were alive. It's about what kind of faith your people are going to carry on after you're gone. What are you instilling in your kids, in your grandkids? Do they pray or do they whine and complain? And where do they learn that? Right? Some of us that something goes wrong and it's like, let's say, call the ambulance, right? We just start complaining. Or do we tell them, I understand, that's hard, but God will get us through this. God is faithful. What are we showing them? Because they're going to keep it up long after you're gone. Dying in our faith is just as crucial as living it out. Let's never forget that. Let's pray. Lord, I really don't know what to say other than to ask that you'll help each one of us to live and die true to our faith, true to you, as an example to everyone around us of just how awesome you are and how there is no better life than one that's in service to you. I ask that you will help each one of us, Lord, when that day comes, finish our race well. And that we will all hear, Lord, your voice tell us, well done, good and faithful servant. Till that day, Lord, strong, keep it true. In your name I ask this and I thank you.